Hey there, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show, News Talk 829.33 FM WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. Give it up. I know, we got the whole show planned out for you here. And we're going to start with, the story. It won't go away because they won't let it go away. And we've remarked many times on this show how some people die and it gets in the news once and then you never hear about it again. And then somehow... and to paraphrase George Orwell, all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. Isn't it interesting how for some lives that are lost, we have rallies, we have protests, we have streets being blocked. For other ones, they don't care. Is Renee Good's life more valuable than other lives? Did anyone have a big rally when Carmelo Anthony killed Austin Metcalf? Do we have big rallies for any of the few shootings that we've had in the last few months? Anyone have rallies for the people that were murdered on DART trains? No rallies for that. So you should already be suspicious about the inconsistency and concern for the loss of life. But it's going to get even uglier than it is now. And I don't delight in telling you this. But again, I look at the media. You're informed. You have to remember about 60% of the country doesn't have any idea what's really going on. They see some things floating through their social media. They see what their favorite actor or musician tells them, and they get reinforced everywhere they turn. They get the Team Blue narrative, whether they turn on the local news, most of the national news, all the national news except for Fox and a couple other small players. Whenever they turn on Netflix, all the shows are just geared toward Team Blue propaganda. I mean, it really is that bad. And so if you want to judge on how the less informed, low information voters, what message they're getting, you have to start watching the media outside of what you normally believe in. And man, it's pretty bad. Number one, they're too positive about actual illegal immigrant gang members. The day after Renee Good was shot, there was another ICE-involved shooting in Portland. And this one, I'll go ahead and give you the ending first, tell you the story backwards. Yes, they are a married couple, but they're both affiliated with Tren de Aragua. One of them had been working for Tren de Aragua in a prostitution scheme. One of these married couple, I'm assuming the dude, but they don't specify. One of them had been involved in a shooting in Portland recently. So they're gang members. They've already committed acts of violence. They're here illegally anyway. When ICE goes to try and pick them up, they actually do try and ram the cops. They're both shot. Now they live. But remember, when Renee Good was being reported on, what was she? She was a poet and mother. Remember that? Not an activist, not someone who lost custody of her kids, not some unemployed political agitator, a poet and a mother.
37-year-old Renee Nicole Macklin Good was a U.S. citizen born in Colorado and a mother of three. In social media accounts, she described herself as a poet, writer, wife, and mom.
Okay, and so these people in Portland, what are they? Are they prostitution sting gangsters from Tren de Aragua? No, they're a married couple.
Another shooting by federal agents is adding fuel to the fire.
The Department of Homeland Security claims their agents in Portland, Oregon were trying to arrest a married couple when the suspects ran them down with their car.
They're illegal immigrants. They're in Tren de Aragua. They're wrapped up in a prostitution scheme, and they've already been involved in another shooting. Any of those identifiers would have been more useful in a news/journalistic setting, but they went with married couple. The next day, even after we know more about them, even after we've had the press conferences and the data that I just gave you is readily available, this is the next day after they've had protests for it. Still calling them a married couple.
And as we're tracking protests across the country about the Minneapolis ICE shooting, more are popping up thanks to a shooting yesterday in Portland, Oregon, where federal agents shot a married couple.
Now, this level of dishonesty, it's annoying. I got it. It's kind of sad to see how far journalism has fallen, how dishonest they are. But it's more than that. This is the false information that has Renee Good thinking she's justified in interfering with ICE raids. This is why they have entire groups that are training other people. Hey, this is how you interfere with ICE raids. Yeah, you don't actually like bother them like directly, but you do go maybe just stand in the road or pull your car sideways in the road, and just be sure to be nice to them. You can talk to them, you can harass them, but say, no, you're not bothering me. No, you just need to go get some lunch. This is the rhetoric that got Renee killed. This is the same rhetoric also, because it's hyperbole on the other side, that got Charlie Kirk killed. When everyone on your side is angels and everyone on the other side is literally Hitler, then what do you want low mental acuity people to come away with? Because if it's not a lie, if it really is true, if, this lady was just a good poet and a mother who dropped off her kid at school and got gunned down just trying to go minding her own business. Now, if that was really true, and the guys that shot him really were Nazis, it's kind of logical to shoot Charlie Kirk or to shoot Donald Trump or to firebomb Teslas. These lies have real consequences that have already gotten people hurt, and they're continuing. In fact, you could say they're ramping them up. Here is Stephen Colbert with... I don't really have time to do this. All right, I got two cuts here. The lady that just got elected to be the next governor of Virginia, her name is Spanberger. She was on Stephen Colbert's show last night. Now, remember, this is a comedy talk show. This is a late-night talk show that's supposed to be comedy. They don't even bother telling jokes. It's pretty much just Democrat propaganda for the entire interview. I mean, we're not even throwing any jokes in there. Like, hey, I heard you got a new dog. None of the fun stuff in there. It's all, yep, ICE, it's terrible. They're just trying to harass people and instill fear in our population. And it's like, that's not very funny. But again, my complaint isn't that, well, Stephen Colbert, he sure could be funnier with his show. My complaint is that this is what is filling people's heads that caused the ICE officers to get shot, or the ICE detainees to get shot at the ICE facility here in Dallas in our own backyard. This is the thought process. This is the misinformation and the hyperbole that is, whether it's intentional or not, that led to the group of 9 Antifa activists shooting up the ICE facility in Alvarado and the one in McAllen and all the other attacks you've heard about. This is why Charlie Kirk got shot in the neck. This is why Donald Trump got shot in the ear. And so, no, they're not learning their lesson. Which I'm not here to necessarily just disparage them. That's not the point of this show. The point is, act accordingly. These people are still ginning up hate against you, and the lesson is not being learned. But you'll hear the governor of Virginia and Stephen Colbert next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey, football fans, James Parker here for the Prize Picks app. Now, I used my superior football expertise to turn it into money last night. I watched the Texans game. They were playing against the Steelers. Aaron Rodgers, the geriatric quarterback, limping around. And they had something interesting. In fact, I made 2 different lineups for the same game. You can do that. It's not just once a day. You can do, I guess, as many lineups as you can squeeze in there. But I did something different this time. When I was looking through the statistics, I went all the way to the end. They got to some really obscure statistics, like is he going to sneeze into his left hand or his right hand first, or things like that. But for this one, I found Aaron Rodgers, yards on first completion, 6.5. I picked more. I did the same thing for C.J. Stroud, the quarterback for Houston. Yards on first completion, 7.5. I picked more. I was correct on both. And the cool part about this is it's only 6 minutes into the game. I've already won $105. I turned $60 into $165. And then for the rest of the game, I was thinking CJ Stroud's going to kill it. Aaron Rodgers is old and he's going against a really good defense. He's not going to kill it. So I took their passing yards for CJ Stroud. I picked more for Aaron Rodgers. I picked less. I was right again. I won twice on yesterday's game. And you can do that too with Prize Picks. You can't do that with regular old fuddy-duddy fantasy sports. But for that second one, I turned $20 into $70. So, hey, it's a good night for the Parker family. I want you to take advantage too. Download the Prize Picks app. Use promo code WBAP. You get $50 in lineups with your first $5 lineup. Download Prize Picks. Use promo code WBAP. Take advantage of $50 in lineups when you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. You know, I think they want another ice shooting. It's the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP. Not to be hyperbolic here, but I think they know that would be good for business. And it would. Unfortunately, their interests are lined up with more chaos, more violence. So if you want to take like the sociopathic angle, It's not an accident that they're using their language to inspire weaker-minded people to continue making the bad decisions that led to Renee Good's death. But here we are. This is the lady who just got elected to be the next governor of Virginia on the Stephen Colbert Show. Two things I want you to take away from this. Number one is the ridiculous, over-the-top framing of Trump and ICE. Because she's going to say they just want to harass people. They just want to instill fear. Really? You don't think they just want to enforce the laws as they're written? You don't think they just want to, I don't know, get illegal aliens out of here? You know, I don't know. It's just for harassment and fear. What good does that do anybody? How would that even help Team Red? How would that even help the Republicans? How would that even help Trump? Oh, we just want to harass them and instill fear in them. That the way, what? You'll be sure to activate them to go to the ballot box in November and vote against you? Makes no sense whatsoever. But she just says it like it's gospel truth. And Stephen Colbert's like, yeah, they're just evil. Yeah, it couldn't be that they want to enforce the law or they don't want this country to be overrun with a bunch of people who hate it or they want to make this place safer. No, they're just fear, harassment. That's all it is.
Governor.
Oh, and the second part is, this is supposed to be a comedy show, by the way. It sounds like a Democrat symposium. Like if you went to the, Southern Democrat Leadership Conference or some breakout group within a convention. This does not even attempt comedy.
Governor.
Yeah.
Governors have recently, across the United States, have been put in a sort of an untenable situation, having their states invaded by their own federal government, against their wishes, sending national.
Can you be invaded by your own government? Can the United States technically invade the United States?
Guard troops from other states when they weren't asked to do so. Minnesota and Illinois, and we just found this out. This is actually right before I came out here. It was announced that Minnesota and Illinois have announced that they're suing the Trump administration over.
By the way, this is the first time you've even heard from the crowd. And are they laughing at a joke? Or they're cheering about Trump being sued by two states? This is a comedy show?
Illinois already won over the National Guard. Now they're suing over ICE being sent in. What's your reaction to what's happening?
So I'm the incoming governor of Virginia, but I also began my career as a federal agent. I used to work narcotics and money laundering cases. I carried a gun every day. I worked on task forces with local, state, and federal police. And what I learned every single day in law enforcement is your ability to do your job is built on trust. And what we are seeing day in and day out when people are going in, wearing masks, terrifying communities, is that they're breaking down that trust. And it is actually impeding the ability to keep our community safe, to enforce the law. And as governor, I will ensure that we are a place where, yes, we uphold the law, but people know that if they are a victim of a crime, or if they are a witness of a crime, or if they are a community member, that they are in a place where there is trust that is being built and not degraded day in and day out by the tactics we're seeing.
Wow. So they just Trump wants to harass people and instill fear. That's it. He's just doing this out of spite. He's just doing this because he's a mean person. Has nothing to do with enforcing the law, has nothing to do with respecting our immigration system. It has nothing to do with the negative consequences of unchecked illegal and illegal immigration. No, he's just doing it because he's a mean guy. Now, not only is that not true, nobody believes that. Nobody on Team Red believes that. I don't think anybody on Team Blue really thinks that's what Trump is doing. But what are they saying this for? Because there's some dumb people. Remember how dumb the average person is? Half the people are dumber than that. They get a vote, and they're influenced by such ridiculous claims. Here's another one. Again, just sowing division, just harassing people, just instilling fear. Colbert and Spanberger again.
I'll just take these two scenarios. National Guard troops are sent from another state, say Texas to Virginia, or ICE was sent in at this level of force and seemingly for just to harass and to instill fear. What responses can you have?
They keep repeating each other. Just harass and instill fear. That's all they're doing. Just harass and instill fear. Yes, they want to harass and instill fear. The guest says. Yes, the host agrees. They want to harass and instill fear. So tell me more about this. Yes, they want to harass and instill fear. We got it. ICE is evil. Trump is evil. Do you have anything of substance to say?
Have as a governor within Virginia law that is not superseded by federal law to actually protect the citizens of your state or the residents of your state?
Well, at the end of the day, if there is an emergency in Virginia that requires the support of the Guard, first and foremost, we have an incredible Guard in Virginia, and it is up to the governor to bring forth the Virginia Guard to help our citizens. We do not need outside support unless the governor is the one who makes that request. And so, as the incoming governor of Virginia, I will make known to the Trump administration that we do not want. We do not want them trying to sow fear, to sow division within our communities.
Sowing fear, sowing division. What is that vocal fry thing she kept doing at the end there? Different people have different fillers when they feel uncomfortable in a public speaking setting. And instead of letting there be a half second or a whole second of silence, they make a noise. A lot of people say, I do it too. I mean, everyone does it. But she does like the Britney Spears vocal fry, the Obama used to do that.
Citizens, we do not need outside support unless the governor is the one who makes that request. And so, as the incoming governor of Virginia, I will make known to the Trump administration that we do not want. We do not want them trying to sow fear, to sow division within our communities.
Is that right? See, there's comedy. Make fun of her vocal fry there. Yeah, so just to get this straight, from what you heard in the last two segments, the Tren de Aragua couple that was running a prostitution scheme and already got caught up in a shooting in Portland earlier, they're just a sweet little married couple. But the ICE agents, anyone worried about their family? The guy that did the shooting, the other guy that pulled on the door, they don't have a wife, they don't have kids, they're not a poet. Are they married? Is that a married ICE agent? Does he write poetry too? Because remember, she was a poet. She was a mother and a poet, and that's all she was. Just a good old
37-year-old Renee Nicole Macklin Good was a U.S. citizen born in Colorado and a mother of three. In social media accounts, she described herself as a poet, writer, wife, and mom.
Yeah, there it is. She's a poet, writer, wife, mom. These other guys, they're just harassing people, instilling fear and terror. Expect more violence. Expect more protests. Expect more chaos. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Coming up next, you'll hear from two members of the squad who are continuing their hyperbole that's going to get more people hurt. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. And the shocking thing about the hyperbole surrounding the shootings and the whole ICE situation, no matter what town it's in, is the fact that they're not even throwing in the bullet point of, hey, maybe you shouldn't harass officers while they're executing raids, while they're in the commission of their duties. In fact, it's illegal. It's even illegal in the state of Minnesota. In fact, it's been passed around that Tim Walz signed a bill. So it's, I don't know what all these numbers are. I don't even know what that symbol is. Paragraph 111B. Accelerating a vehicle toward a federal officer constitutes assault with a deadly weapon, up to 20 years imprisonment, justifying deadly force per Supreme Court precedents, like blah, blah, blah. So you can still hold the belief that what ICE is doing is wrong. You can still hold the belief that it's unconstitutional, or maybe they shouldn't be masking their officers. But if you were truly concerned with the well-being of the activists that are getting involved in this, you would throw in a bullet point just somewhere in there. Hey, if these are such bloodthirsty, racist monsters who are hurting people without any consequence, maybe you shouldn't block them. Maybe you shouldn't be tangling with them. Maybe even if you do, just realize it's very dangerous what you're doing. No, we should be able to call these people racist, bloodthirsty, murderous monsters, literally Hitler, but also taunt them like they're pups. What's the matter? Are you going to do nothing? Are you going to get some lunch? That's not how you would talk to someone if you really believed that they were a racist, murderous, bloodthirsty Nazi. You wouldn't be making fat jokes in the middle of the road, blocking their vehicle, now would you? So there's just a huge cognitive dissonance. But let me show you where it comes from. Your favorite Somali, Ilhan Omar. Of course, she's being paraded around the media this weekend. This is her take.
Renee Nicole Good, as you hear her say, she's not mad. She's sitting in her car, peacefully waving cars to get by. This agent, as you see, gets out of his car, automatically starts running towards her, trying to open her door.
By the way, he didn't run. He calmly walked.
She feels scared. She tries to turn the wheel away. And then
See, now she's scared. No, she was happy-go-lucky. So she wasn't doing this out of malice, but then she admits she's scared. Well, once you admit that, then there's the panic factor. Maybe she wasn't thinking correctly. Maybe she was trying to get out of there and oopsie, I bumped into an ICE agent, or I was indifferent to whether or not I bumped into an ICE agent. Even if she didn't, I'll be magnanimous here. I don't think she intended to kill the guy. I think she was indifferent to whether or not she bumped him because she was trying to get the hell out of there. But it was deadly force, and any reasonable person that is in front of a car accelerating towards you that hits your left leg, they might think that that's deadly assault. That's kind of reasonable.
you see the other officer who can clearly see the car is moving, move towards the front of the car, which if they are saying that he has 10 years on service and is trained, he should know that you shouldn't be trying to get in front of a moving car. And so
that's his fault. Yeah, look, he's assaulting her. He's jumping in front of a moving car. Yeah, that's like, why do you keep hitting my fist with your face?
it is not acceptable for Kristi Noem and the president and the vice president to make these kind of judgments without there being a full investigation.
Why not? Y'all are running around calling them murderers. I'll give you Ayanna Pressley, another member of the squad. This is the bald-headed one. And she says murder 3 times in this interview. I think I have the first 2 in this clip.
The point is, the actions of ICE, they are unconstitutional, unlawful. They are cruel. They are rogue. They are racist. And they are terrorizing communities. They are sowing chaos and terrorizing communities. It has nothing to do with...
There it is again, sowing chaos, terrorizing communities. It's the same verbiage that Ilhan Omar was using, or the Spanberger on the Colbert Show that I played in the last segment. They're all just reading from the same sheet of music. Yeah, it's terrorizing them.
Public safety. And there is a cumulative toll and impact here. You know, ICE's murder of Renee Good in broad daylight is horrific and unacceptable. She was an unarmed citizen driving on a residential street, and she was shot in her car 3 times.
Yeah, she was just driving, minding her own business, like she was on the way to 7-Eleven to get a Slurpee or something. Now, we saw the video. I've seen it. She's been there for at least 3 minutes harassing these guys and blocking them and not allowing them to do their job and putting them in danger because now other people are starting to gather in the community. They would like to be able to just go in there, grab the illegal aliens, and get the heck out of Dodge to minimize conflict with the community, but she made it happen. And Ayanna Pressley is just gassing people up for this to happen again.
The horrific actions of Renee Good, who was a wife and a mother and a poet and a concern.
She said poet. I can't believe she said that again. Poet? We're just throwing out any hobby you might have that makes you look good. What about the officer? Did he write any poetry? Did he play acoustic guitar in his church's praise band? You going to say anything nice about him? He loved puppies? No, he's just a bloodthirsty racist. What else she saying at the beginning of this? I know racist was in there.
A community member, which is why she was out there protesting in the first place. Her brutal murder. These things do not happen they're not in isolation. This is why for many years I've been calling for the abolishing of ICE. Congress must do everything in its power to rein in the terror of this lawless rogue agency.
There it is. Terror. So the takeaway from that is expect more. They like this. They're encouraging it. Nowhere did she say, hey, maybe if you're going to be observing, you should observe from a distance. Maybe you shouldn't block them with your vehicle. Maybe you shouldn't taunt them. Maybe you shouldn't get out of the vehicle and start filming you, taunting them while you're blocking them with your car in the vehicle. Maybe you shouldn't try and, skedaddle out of there. And look, worst case scenario, she actually hit the dude. Best case scenario, she made him at least jump out of the way. And not expect bad things to happen. Nowhere in there did she say that, so expect more. Hey, so coming up on Thursday, we're just 2 days away from the first of what I hope is many Parker Pours. And we're going to go down to the Omni Fort Worth Hotel and the hotel bar, a little place called the Whiskey and Rye. I'm going to do a live broadcast from 2 to 5, and then afterwards we're going to hang out and we're going to drink. Now, I can't drink during the show, but as soon as it's over, I'll have a reasonable amount before I get behind the wheel of a car. I don't know. I might just have to Uber home or catch a ride from Richard. But Whiskey and Rye, it's an awesome spot downtown Fort Worth, right across from the convention center down there. It's one of these places that has like wall-to-wall TVs, and they have like one giant projector screen. So for people that want to watch the game, they have it set up perfect for you. But they also have a ton of draft beers, craft cocktails, and a little neighborhood bar vibe. So come on down to the lobby of the Omni Fort Worth Hotel. Kick back. They got big old oversized leather chairs. They got some complimentary pool tables. And we're going to be giving away $50 gift certificates to Whiskey and Rye. There's going to be 4 when we give away. And then I just heard from Chris, our promotions guy, that we're actually going to give away a pair of tickets to go see the Stars. So if I have to bribe you to come on out there, come out. I'll be live from 2 to 5. I'll hang out from 5 to 7. I don't know, maybe more like 5 to 8. And I would love to meet you. It's the Parker Pour. Coming up next on The James Show, Dr. Bo Kabbalah from Tarleton State is going to talk about how a record high number of U.S. adults are now independent. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Are you one of the 45% of U.S. adults who considers himself an independent? This is the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP on your home for Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins. My next guest coming in from Poli-Sci at Tarleton State, Dr. Bo Kabbalah. Welcome back to the James Show, sir. And I got to tell you, this is registering as a higher number than usual. But I got to tell you, I am not surprised. The other side of that, 27% of the country identifies as Democrat, 27% identifies as a Republican. What's your explanation for this? Well, let's talk about where these independents are on the spectrum, because people like to draw the political spectrum. Democrats are left, Republicans are right. Now, I consider myself a libertarian, so I'm not really on that line because in many ways I'm more liberal than Democrats, and in many ways I'm more conservative than Republicans. So I would consider myself an independent, but a guy that if I do have to look at the scale, it would be a lot harder for me to vote for a Democrat than a Republican. There's still like the Tom Massey, Rand Paul, Mike Lee disappearing over the horizon Republicans that I can actually identify with. So really, I wouldn't consider myself in the middle. I would consider myself as sort of outside of the spectrum. Yeah. Please do. Yeah, looking back, I think America missed a real chance to change for the better with that Ross Perot bit because, in hindsight, the thing that has affected me and my family the most over the last 30 years since Ross Perot is inflation and deficit spending and the debt and yeah, and that's what he was all about is keeping the size and spending of government under control. And if we had a candidate like that now, I would salivate all over him. Well, thank you very much. There's Dr. Bo Kabbalah from Tarleton State University. I appreciate your time on the James Show, sir. Thank you. All right, here's another reminder. You can join me, James Parker, live this Thursday at Whiskey and Rye inside the Omni Fort Worth Hotel. 2 to 5 is the live show. We'll be having a happy hour from 5 to 7, so you can enjoy some good spirits. And we'll have a pour of the week, WBAP prizes, stars, tickets, and more to give away. That's 2 to 5, really 2 to 7, at the Whiskey and Rye, Omni Fort Worth on Houston Street with The James Show. Coming up next, we lost Scott Adams, the creator of Dilbert, and I'll give you my tribute on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Well, hey there, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. Snooze Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. Well, you can hold the applause here because this is going to be super sad. This is going to be super sad for me. This is probably going to be super sad for you. But the writer, the creator, the brain behind Dilbert, Scott Adams, passed away. I believe it was this morning. But it's no surprise to anyone. He had announced his cancer diagnosis last year. It was in May. Remember when we got the cancer diagnosis from Biden? Oh, look, he's got prostate cancer that's metastasized into his bones. And jeepers, we just found that out with a scan. And Scott Adams was questioning it because I think this was the first time he publicly announced that he had cancer. But he's like, I got the same kind as Biden, and I only have a few months left. So this was May last year.
Some of you have already guessed, so this won't surprise you at all. But I have the same cancer that Joe Biden has. So I also have prostate cancer that has also spread to my bones. But I've had it longer than he's had it. Well, longer than he's admitted having it. So my life expectancy is maybe the summer. I expect to be checking out from this domain sometime this summer.
All right, so let's just cut it off there. So we lost him this morning. Before I get into his legacy and the controversies surrounding Scott Adams, dude, get out the tissues. I'm sorry to just break your heart like this. There's a bunch of moms that are sitting in the carpool line right now waiting for the kid to get out of school. You need to listen to all 2 minutes of this. He left a final note. He knew he was going to pass away. And so his first wife came out and read the note. And this is just hard to listen to, but this is amazing stuff. By the way, this was just like a couple hours ago.
I'm going to try to get through this. He has a final message that he wanted to say. So I'm going to try to read it. Trying to be strong. If you are reading this, things did not go well for me. I have a few things to say before I go. My body failed before my brain. I am of sound mind as I write this January 1st, 2026. If you wonder about any of my choices for my estate or anything else, please know I'm free of any coercion or inappropriate influence of any sort. I promise. Next, many of my Christian friends have asked me to find Jesus before I go. I'm not a believer, but I have to admit the risk-reward calculation for doing so looks so attractive to me. So here I go. I accept Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior and look forward to spending an eternity with him. The part about me not being a believer should be quite quickly resolved if I wake up in heaven. I won't need any more convincing than that. I hope I'm still qualified for entry. With your permission, I'd like to explain my life. For the first part of my life, I was focused on making myself a worthy husband and parent. As a way to find meaning. That worked. But marriages don't always last forever.
And then for some reason it cuts off there. That's the video that got posted. That's all we got. I can read the rest of it for you. Marriages don't always last forever. Mine eventually ended in a highly amicable way. I'm grateful for those years and for the people I came to call my family. Once the marriage unwound, I needed a new focus. So I donated myself to the world, literally speaking the words out loud in my otherwise silent home. From that point on, I looked for ways I could add the most to people's lives, one way or another. That marked the start of my evolution from Dilbert cartoonist to the author of what I hope would be useful books. By then, I believed I had amassed enough life lessons that I could start passing them on. I continued making Dilbert comics, of course. Then he talks about his books for a while. But at the end, this is the tough part. He ends like this. I had an amazing life. I gave it everything I had. If you got any benefits from my work, I'm asking you to pay it forward as best you can. That's the legacy I want. Be useful, and please know I loved you all to the end. Scott Adams. Man, I hope I get to write a goodbye note to you people. You know, Rush got to do that. Rush knew he was going out, and you could tell. Remember, he passed away, what was it, in February of 2021. But before he left for the holidays in December of 2020, he pretty much left a goodbye note. And it's online, and I expect I'll play it again on the anniversary of his passing. That might just be my ongoing tradition as I play that on the anniversary of his passing. But we lost a good one, Scott Adams. Now, already People, People magazine, it's not really that much of a magazine anymore. It's more of a website, but still. They had a writer before Scott Adams is even cold, before it's even lunchtime, writes an article talking about what a evil, racist, sexist, terrible bigot he is. What is wrong with you people? I'll share some of that with you and go back and relitigate the complaint she's making in the article. But if politics has ate up your life so much that you have to go out and rush and spread antipathy for a guy that just died, whose biggest crime is making a comic strip, you are a broken person. Wait until you hear these sound bites next that were so awful that we can't say anything nice about the guy on the day that he died. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey, homeowners, if your paint is chipping or cracking or peeling anywhere on your house, you're being judged for it. It doesn't mean you're a bad person. It doesn't mean you're a poor person or you're a loser. It doesn't affect your standing with God, but you are being judged for it. And how would you like to not just fix that, but fix it and never have to worry about it again? If you just go up and you slap paint up there, you're going to come back in 5 or 10 years and you're going to have the exact same problem. But if you get Rhino Shield, you'll never have to paint your house again. And plus, it does other things that paint can't. It blocks out 90% of UV sun rays. It lowers your energy costs. It has an insulation factor. It's a 6.9 R factor, whatever that means. But it looks great. It'll keep the texture of the surface underneath. So if you like that nice wood grain or the stucco or the rocks or bricks or whatever you got going on, it looks beautiful. It lasts longer. And the best part is you'll just never have to worry about it again. Go to rhinoshielddfw.com, schedule a time for Gary to come out, show you how the technology works, look at your house, give you an estimate. If you want to go forward there, tell him you heard it on the James Show, you get 20% off. Tell him you need financing, he can give you low monthly payments. But it all starts by you going to the website, rhinoshielddfw.com. Well, we lost Scott Adams. Some people are a little gleeful about that. Kind of sick. It's the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Your home for Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins. Funny guys that are on from 10 to 2 right before me. But we were going through the goodbye letter that he got to write. Isn't that nice? If you pass away, to know in advance. I don't know which one's better. Being able to know in advance and just sweat over it and cry over it and agonize over it. Have to write your final letter. Or wouldn't it be great if some guy just swerved into oncoming traffic and you were gone like that? Didn't have to think about it. No suffering, no pain, just boom, you're gone. Just go to sleep and not wake up. Wouldn't that be great? I don't know which one's better. But you heard the note that Scott Adams left. There was no malice in there. There was no lashing out at anyone. There's no racism, sexism, homophobia, bigotry, literally Hitler. But about the time I'd found out that we had lost the creator of Dilbert, I go online to check, see what's on his Twitter, because I was already following him. People Magazine already came out with the story. It just ended up trashing him at the end. Here's the headline, by the way. Scott Adams, disgraced Dilbert creator, dies at 68. Good Lord. The subheadline, Dilbert was pulled from wide circulation after Adams' racist rant in 2023. Now, Dilbert follows the storyline of so many people out of showbiz, you know, the creative industry, the entertainment industry. He was a comic strip writer. And he never got called racist, never got called bigot, never got called terrible names until after in 2016 he said he supported Trump and said nice things about him. And that's it. You're off the plantation. Everyone now has to hate you. And remember, when the leader of ISIS got killed in the drone strike, what was it, an austere religious scholar assassinated by Trump administration or something ridiculous like that? But yeah, Scott Adams, disgraced Dilbert creator, dies at 68. And this is why when Rob Reiner died a couple weeks ago, I didn't say anything bad about him, especially on the day he died or the day after. It's like, look, we politically disagree, but the man made Princess Bride. Yes, he made Stand By Me. He made Spinal Tap. He made A Few Good Men. He made a bunch of stuff, Garrett. But thank you for your input. But it's just ugly to do that. And here they are. This is why I didn't do it, because this is just ugly. This is terrible. Now, she has some subheadlines. Scott Adams died at age 68. Adams created the comic Dilbert, which became popular in the 90s. Dilbert was dropped from dozens of newspapers after Adams' racist comment in a 2023 rant. So, in the big headline, he's disgraced. In the subheadline, racist. And then in the 3 bullet points, things you need to know, they got racist in there too. Before you've even started the article, you've had disgraced and racist twice. But then she goes on. Scott Adams died at age 68. First published Dilbert in 1989, blah, blah, blah. Goes through a brief synopsis of his career and his life and then his personal life. And then here we get to the end. Here we go. Adams often weighed in on politics in his later years and endorsed President Donald Trump in the 2016 election. He also opposed to the COVID-19 vaccine and masking, per PolitiFact. NPR reported in 2023 that he once questioned the death toll of the Holocaust. During a 2023 episode of his YouTube show, Adams discussed a Rasmussen poll that found 53% of Black Americans agree with the statement, "It's okay to be white." A further 26% disagreed and 21% specified they weren't sure. So let's play part of that, because she quotes him here. She said, Adams said, if nearly half of all blacks are not okay with white people, that's a hate group. I don't want to have anything to do with them. And I would say, based on the current way things are going, the best advice I would give to white people is to get the hell away from black people, because there's no fixing this. She quotes this, right? I'm about to play you the audio. But then she goes on to celebrate that Dilbert was dropped by numerous newspapers and its distributors after this comments. No, see, Dilbert was never a problem until you found out Scott Adams supported Trump. And then you just watched everything waiting for him to say something out of line so you could hyper-focus on that and make it all about his entire, just wipe out all of his 30 years career. with one statement. That's what you need to do, because you have to demonize everybody that's on the other team. They're all evil. There can't be one decent person that politically disagrees with you, according to the narrative. So we're going to go back. I'm going to play this for you. Is it really this bad, or is this guy kind of riffing, trying to be comedic about what is kind of a scary poll? I mean, scary in a way that, like, I really didn't think it was that bad either.
Rasmussen asked, white and black voters, and probably others, do you disagree or agree with the statement, it's okay to be white? 26% of blacks said no. It's not okay to be white. 21% weren't sure. Add them together, that is 47% of black respondents were not willing to say it's okay to be white. That's like a real poll. This just happened. Did you have any idea? Would you have imagined that could have happened?
Now, this is amazing, because in this segment, anyone who hears what he's talking about should come away with the surprise, like, my goodness, I didn't realize that it was so frowned upon in the black community to say it's okay to be white. Only 53% of black people agree with that statement. Do the rest of the 47 don't think it's okay to be white? They don't want to admit to a pollster that they think that? So that's kind of scary. Any rational person would say, we have a problem with racism in the black community. But this People writer and so many other people that were aggressively misunderstanding what he was saying came away with a, wow, I can't believe Scott Adams has a problem with racism. No, Scott Adams doesn't have a problem with racism. Scott Adams is referencing a poll to where half people of one skin tone don't think it's okay to be his skin tone. So wouldn't rational people want to just be cautious of that?
But as of today, I'm going to re-identify as white because I don't want to be a member of a hate group. I'd accidentally joined a hate group. So if nearly half of all blacks are not okay with white people, according to this poll, not according to me, according to this poll, that's a hate group. That's a hate group. And I don't want to have anything to do with them. And I would say, based on the current way things are going, the best advice I would give to white people is to get the hell away from black people. Just get the away. Wherever you have to go, just get away.
Now, I don't agree with that last part, but I don't think that undoes a 30-year career. I don't think that makes him racist. I think he's having a real-time emotional response to a pretty scary poll result, to where if you are concerned about the racism of Scott Adams, you may need to be super concerned about the racism of the people who answered that Rasmussen poll, or Gallup, whoever it was. Is that a racist statement? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. If I told you a crowd of any people, half of them hated you, you'd be like, well, maybe I want to avoid that crowd altogether. Is that racist? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. We'll continue with my audio tribute to Scott Adams as he passed away today, next on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Well, we lost a good one. Scott Adams, the creator of Dilbert, passed away. And there's a lot to be said for the people who write comics. There's a lot to be said for the people who write anything. Good authors, good playwrights, good songwriters, especially comedians. Because these are the people whose gift isn't knowing words that you don't know or expressing thoughts that you don't express. It's that they just do it better than we do. I know when someone's a better talk show host than me. I know when someone's a better comedian than me. I know when someone is a better storyteller than me. When they can say in 8 words what it takes me 20 words to say. He was one of those guys. Now, he got political at the end, and most of the people out of the entertainment world are very disappointing. This was a guy who agrees with most of the people that are listening to WBAP on political topics. So for that, he had to be destroyed. He has to be slagged. Even on the day he passes, they don't even wait for his body to be cold before they start putting political stakes in his corpse. I find that absolutely disgusting. But in his honor, I'm going to be playing some of the classic sound bites from Scott Adams that were already in the Audiotron 3000 because his sound bites have been on the James Show plenty. But that's after we talk to Sabrina in Dallas. You're on WBAP. Hey, Sabrina.
Hey, I was calling about the poll as to whether or not it was okay to be white. And I just thought that I wonder if in this day and age, if the question to some people might not be whether or not it's okay, but whether or not it's okay in this culture. Like some people may be okay with you being white, but they're answering the question that it feels like it's not okay today. But I think it's a ridiculous question because nobody has anything to do with what color they are. I mean, you can't help it.
Yeah, well, let me catch some people up. Scott Adams, the guy we're talking about now, was responding to a poll recently, and the lady in this article that's talking about how he's such a terrible person thinks that this is the most horrible thing ever. Here we go. Hang on.
Rasmussen asked, white and black voters, and probably others, do you disagree or agree with the statement, it's okay to be white?
Yeah, that's all it was. Do you disagree or agree with the statement, it's okay to be white? Yeah, Sabrina, a lot of people apparently don't think it's okay to be white.
No, I think it's ridiculous because, in regard to just anything, God made you. He made you the way you are. And, I grew up, I'm the last year of the baby boomers, and, I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and I can't imagine at any time thinking that anyone should be anything other than what God made them. Or that saying someone shouldn't be. You shouldn't be the color you are. How can you? It's ridiculous. You can't change the color you are.
Well, no one's asked them to change colors. They're just saying we're bad people because of the color of our skin.
Yeah.
53% of black Americans agreed with the statement, it's okay to be white. The other half of them disagreed and half of them specified they weren't sure. Right.
Sad day, that's for sure. Well, I think it's okay for me to be white, and I think it's okay for black people to be black.
Well, that shouldn't be a bold statement there, Sabrina, but I guess we have to say that in 2026. Thank you very much for calling in. Let me give you a classic soundbite from Scott Adams that was already in the archives. When he talked about he has the same cancer as Biden, he was making some good points in the fact that there's no way that this could have snuck up in the last few weeks or the last few months. To have cancer this advanced, stage 4, metastasized from prostate to your bones, takes a long time. But then later in that same rant, he told a story about Trump giving him a call, and this is kind of touching now.
And a little bit later, I thought, I better check that voicemail and see if that was anything I need to deal with. And the first sentence in the transcription, because, the phone gives you the text version of the voicemail as well. The first sentence is, "This is your favorite president." And I thought to myself, no. Did I just send the most important person in the world to voicemail? And it turns out that I had. It was Trump. And he was just calling to check in. Now, he left a, semi-lengthy little voicemail, just say he was checking on me, heard about my health situation. And then he says, you can call me back on this number. Now, obviously, I don't call him back, right? Because that would just be ridiculous. It just was a nice thing for him to say. because he called me. You could call me back on this number. So I didn't call him back on that number because I thought it's not like he's sitting at the Resolute desk waiting for my call. I thought that whatever it is he's doing has got to be more important, than randomly taking a call from me. So I don't call him back. Hours go by. It's the afternoon, same day. It's the afternoon. And all of a sudden another call comes through, also from Florida. And I thought to myself, there's no way he's calling me again. And I answer it, and it's Trump. And apparently he'd heard of my situation, and he had lots of questions. I won't get into the details of our conversation because that would be inappropriate. But he was just checking on me. And he wanted to make sure that I was getting everything I needed. And that was it. But at the end, the strangest thing happened at the end. At the end of the call, when he found out, the situation was kind of dire, and I was still checking out some things that might help. He said, if you need anything, I'll make it happen. And he meant it. He was completely aware of our, let's say, parallel journeys from 2015. He mentioned it. And it was just the most incredible, weird, hard to understand situation. But boy, was it fun.
All right, man, I'm sorry to bring you down and pull at your heartstrings. I only have one more segment of this. This is going to be another emotional beating. But a couple of the sound bites I've played from Scott Adams over just in 2025 apply so well to what's happening right now with the ICE shootings and Alvarado and Dallas and McAllen, and the ICE shooting that happened in Minneapolis, and the ICE shooting that happened in Portland, and all the protests and the Trump derangement syndrome. He has a pretty good explanation for some of these behavior patterns that need to be remembered. And you'll hear them next when we conclude our tribute to Scott Adams, the creator of Dilbert, who passed away today at age 68. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. I'm your host, James Parker. We are remembering Scott Adams, the creator of Dilbert, died this morning. And he had become quite a political animal in his final years. And so for that, his reputation must be destroyed. Before we had even gotten to lunchtime, People.com posted a horrible story about his death. This is People. This is not supposed to be a political symposium. This isn't even supposed to be political at all. You're supposed to be talking about people. But the headline, Scott Adams, disgraced Dilbert creator, dies at 68. Dilbert was pulled from wide circulation after Adams' racist rant in 2023. They weren't concerned about his racist rant. I can find you people on the left that say far worse things with no pushback, but since they're on the correct team, they escape criticism. Here is the real problem, not just this one writer at People, but so many other critics had with him. It's because he was real good at calling out the other side. Here he is in June of last year explaining how Trump derangement syndrome is a real mental disorder.
But I would argue that we should see it as a mental disorder and that the elderly are just more prone to it, just like Alzheimer's and other stuff. And I saw a post by Meg Brock, who was asking the question on X, when is Trump derangement syndrome going to be officially added to the DSM-5 to make it an official diagnosis? And so I went to Grok to find out, is it already in the literature? And then Grok says it lacks defined symptoms, diagnostic criteria, or empirical evidence required for a legitimate disorder. To which I say, isn't it a lot like addiction? If I said to you, you have a drinking problem, how would you define it as a problem versus a hobby? And the answer is usually if it interferes with your life. So if your drinking has an impact on your life, as in you lose your job, you lose your relationships, you spend all your money, you wake up in a ditch, well, then you've got a drinking problem. If you had 2 drinks on the weekend with your friends and then took a Uber home, we would mostly say you're just somebody who has a hobby and you don't have a problem. But don't you think TDS is exactly like that? If somebody simply prefers a Democrat over Trump, I would say, oh, well, that's just a political preference. But if somebody is crying and shaking and they feel like he's going to become a king and he's going to lock people up in prison camps, isn't that interfering with your actual life and happiness? And wouldn't that be super easy to diagnose if you were a therapist? You could just say, does it affect your life? Do you wake up in the morning shaking and crying? If the answer is yes, then you've got a mental health disorder. I feel like that really needs to be a legitimate mental health disorder. It would help.
Now, whether you agree with that specifically or not, did that sound especially hateful? Did that sound like a mean person who deserves to be drugged through the mud on People magazine or on People.com the day he passes away? Not even the day after he passes away. Because in the middle of him explaining that, we were at a time when, and they're still kind of doing it now, maybe not to the same frequency, where people are just turning their phones onto themselves and having a mental breakdown and getting fired and cutting off their family and cutting off their children and cutting off their parents. There were serious negative consequences to this irrational fear of the man that, Trump, that's just been built into these people. I think he's making a pretty good case. I don't know if it reaches an actual Trump derangement syndrome needs to be identified as another disease, because we don't need, every mental issue isn't a disease, but that's a decent case he's making. Here's another one. He was explaining so well back in September, right after Charlie Kirk had been assassinated. You and I were both horrified at some of the responses from people who were celebrating it or saying, I don't care, he was racist or he was terrible or he was hateful or he said terrible things about black people or whatever. You can go online and you can look for yourself. Charlie Kirk didn't come from a place of hate. He wasn't a racist. There's plenty of counter evidence to it. But they didn't accept any of that. They had to stand on their original assertion that anyone who doesn't agree with me is a Nazi.
So there are numerous stories of teachers and people associated with schools of various types who are getting canceled, meaning fired, for saying horrible things about essentially being happy or saying it was justified that Charlie Kirk got assassinated. Well, let me tell you the thing that is most shocking about that. The most shocking thing is that the people who spoke out that way believed they wouldn't get fired. I think they were all surprised, which means they've been living entirely within a bubble in which they thought other people would agree with that. Are you kidding me? They thought they were in the bubble of reality where, let's say that Hitler was an American and he died. Would you feel bad about saying, thank God Hitler died? No, you wouldn't, because you would assume that almost every single person would agree with you. So it would be easy to say that. These people are saying it in public for the world to see, as if that's what a normal person would think. How hypnotized would you have to be? I think of these people as the hypnotized Hitlerians. But the Hitlerians are people who live in this little world where they think Hitler actually came to power in the United States because so many bad people on the left have been saying that. People who should know better. So I actually have some weird empathy for these teachers getting fired for saying horrendous things about Charlie Kirk, because they actually think they're in a different reality than they are. How do you think you're in a different reality? Is it because you individually had some mental problem? Probably not. It's probably really a predictable outcome of the rhetoric that we're seeing from the left.
Scott Adams, you will be missed, but I have some of your audio sound bites, and you will be hearing them on future James shows every once in a while, kind of keeping that legacy alive. Coming up next, we're going to switch to some much better, more optimistic news. We lost Scott Adams. Good news is we might also be losing Dart, and they're making exit plans. We'll dance on their suffering next on the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Well, hey there, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WVAP. I am your host, James Parker. I know, good to see you too. Let's do something a little more positive here. I hate Dart with the hot, hot heat of 1,000 suns. The idea that there's 5 suburbs, 5 of them that are going to be voting this year on to kick out Dart. This is the kind of stuff that, this kind of stuff I think about when I have me time. It just puts me in a good mood. You know how, like in Happy Gilmore, when he's about to do a putt, and Chubb taught him, go to your happy place. Go to your happy place. Well, for Happy Gilmore, it was a midget with a couple of beers. It was his girlfriend in a nice-looking outfit. It was his grandma winning a slot machine. But for me, it's the fact that 5 suburbs are going to vote on whether or not to kick out Dart. Here's WFAA's report, because now Dart's required by law to announce in advance to their passengers when service cuts could happen. So they've had to put out their plans.
Dart preparing for some potential big-time service cuts if cities vote to leave the transit system.
So hundreds of bus stops and multiple rail stations could be affected, and Dart says those changes could happen pretty fast.
Yeah, Chris Sadeghi is live at the Dart station in downtown Plano this morning. Chris, let's talk to riders. What do they need to know before these potential cuts?
Yeah, Mark, well, Dart is preparing for the possibility that some member cities could withdraw. That's why this afternoon they are holding a meeting to discuss possible changes if stations like this one in downtown Plano are closed. Right now, there are 5 member cities set to hold elections in May on whether or not to remain in the Dart system: University Park, Highland Park, Irving, Plano, and Farmers Branch.
Oh, yeah, you like that? You want to remain in the system?
According to today's agenda for Dart's Committee of the Whole, it says if those cities withdraw, it would affect nearly 800 bus stops, 2 TRE train stops at West Irving and downtown Irving, and 10 Dart rail stations across those cities, including 2 Silver Line stations in Plano. That is the line that just opened a few months ago.
Oh, my God. I can only get so excited. Hey, look, did he say 800 bus stops would be eliminated? 8? That sounds like a lot.
Connect Plano to DFW Airport. The reason Dart holding the meeting now, federal law requires a notice to passengers of any route changes, and if a member city votes to withdraw, the service will stop right away. Now, today's meeting is at 3 o'clock, and in addition to the news of these withdrawals, we also expect an update on the World Cup plans. Dart expected to play a heavy role in the transit for the event. Mark and Kara, back to you.
Oh, my goodness. Who needs porn when you have this? I don't need to go to the Lodge. I don't need to go to Silver City. I don't need to go to Hooters or Twin Peaks. I just need to listen to that report just over and over on repeat. When I get home, Miss Parker's in trouble after all that. And it's not her fault. It's Dart's fault. I'm Miss Parker. Yeah, this is the kind of stuff I dream about. Now, I know it's not a done deal just because they put it on the ballot that not everyone's going to agree and vote to end Dart or get out of Dart. I know it's still a long shot. This is the closest we've been in your entire life to actually doing something about the biggest boondoggle in probably all of Texas history. And I'm not saying North Texas history. I mean, all of Texas history. Has more money been flushed down the toilet on anything else more than Dart? I don't know. I will take legit nominations for that. Because Dart may be the biggest mistake we've ever made. Another great story here, also from WFAA, also local. We have new data. Violent crime in Dallas is down. Actually, violent crime is down across the board, across the country, and actually even in Dallas.
Meeting tonight comes after the police department updated Dallas leaders on recruiting and its impact on public safety. Numbers show violent crimes like murder, robbery, aggravated assault were down in 2025 from the year prior. Chief Como says that includes random gunfire like we saw on New Year's Eve, dropping more than 10% from 2024. He adds that DPD's success in recruiting new officers should help push those numbers even further this year. The department now has just under 3,300 sworn officers and recruiting 50 for the next class beginning Wednesday.
You know, for the news cycle usually being so doom and gloom, and if it bleeds, it leads. Between the economy being happy, violent crime being down, Dart circling the toilet, 2026 might be one of the best years ever. You understand that? Not just for me, but specifically North Texas, this whole metropolitan area. 2026 is looking pretty damn good. Coming up next, Bill Clinton said that he's going to skip this subpoena about some silly Epstein investigation. Why on earth would he want to be a part of that? Will he face any consequences? Find out next on The James Show. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. Man, I got like 8 things to do right here. Let me squeeze one in really fast while no one's looking. Pete Hegseth was in Fort Worth yesterday. Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of War, he stopped off. Now, he made a few stops yesterday. He started in Brownsville. Then he stopped in Fort Worth at Lockheed, where I will be for the Park Report on Thursday. Not Lockheed, but Fort Worth. More about that in a second. But part of the speech he made yesterday seems like so perfect for now. But if you said this 10 years ago, and especially 20 years ago, people would have thought you were insane, right?
The other place we're applying common sense is in our priorities of the department. First is we're reviving the warrior ethos. We want to get rid of the distractions and the debris. No more DEI. No more dudes in dresses. No more climate change worship and social justice and political correctness. We're done with that. We're unleashing the warfighter to be ready, trained, disciplined, accountable, and lethal. When you allow them to do that, they're incredibly good at their job, as the world has seen and as a indicted criminal in Venezuela found out about a week ago.
Now, do you remember growing up when you were a kid? I missed MASH the first time around, but I saw it in reruns plenty in the late 80s, early 90s. You remember the one guy who, in order to try and get out of war, to prove to everyone he was crazy, what did he do? What did he do? What was his name? Klinger? I forgot which one was it. He put on a dress. He put on a dress because that was a universal sign. A man in a dress, something must be mentally wrong with you. You must be unfit for service. You are someone that does not belong in a theater of war. So not only would, if you told this to somebody in 1985, yeah, we've got to stop this dudes in dresses in the military. It's like, what? That's a problem in the future? Are you kidding? That was a punchline in a 1977 sitcom. But now, how often is this happening? Who is arguing with you in 2025, in 2026? Who is arguing with you that we should have dudes in dresses in the military? It just seems like if you time warp a little bit, you got to be careful, because if you go back more than like 4 decades, nothing's going to make sense. If you go forward like 4 decades from now, what the heck's going to be going on then? But then also, no trans was part of it, but no social justice. Social justice, what? That's a problem too. None of this climate change concerns. Climate change. Why would anybody in the military have any concern about climate change whatsoever? The weather's changing. Well, we better adjust the military. We better fight it with the military. You don't fight the weather with the military. It sounds like just an absurd statement. But somehow that's where we're at in this world. Something that Pete Hegseth had to address in our own backyard just yesterday. All right, the next story that I'm kind of excited about. Bill Clinton has skipped his subpoena in the Epstein investigation. Ooh. So back in August of 2025, there was it's a congressional investigation, but it's not one of these stupid theaters where they just haul a bunch of people in and you see it on TV and everyone tries to do a gotcha moment because they got 2 minutes or 5 minutes to ask their questions. This was something where, if I understand correctly, Bill Clinton was supposed to come in and be deposed in a room with no cameras, no audience, and answer some questions to help along the investigation into the Epstein situation. He was supposed to do it now. He skipped it. He put a long letter on X. It's 4 pages long. I'm not going to read the whole thing. But in none of it does he actually address the issue at hand. The caption he wrote when he posted the letter, because it's in 4 images. It's 4 JPEGs. It's like screenshots of the letter. The caption he wrote, though, in the X post 6 hours ago is, "This is not about right or left. It's about right and wrong." That's just how I read it. But this is so weird. Let me read you just a little bit of this. And it's just like he's filling up 4 pages, so it's so long that no one really reads it, but it doesn't actually say anything. I'll just start at the beginning. Chairman Comer, we want to take a moment, given everything, to address you directly. This past year has seen our government engage in unprecedented acts, including against our own citizens. Is it really unprecedented? It's unprecedented to deport illegal immigrants. Barack Obama deported 5 million people. Not only is it not unprecedented, you deported more than that. You deported more people than Obama and Trump combined. Crazy for you to say it's unprecedented. What, it's unprecedented for people to be wearing masks? I don't know. I was alive in 2020. That doesn't sound very unprecedented to me. But it says, people have been seized by mass federal agents from their homes, their workplaces, and the streets of their communities. Students and scientists with visas permitting them to study and work here have been deported without due process. The people who laid siege to the U.S. Capitol have been pardoned and called heroes. Agencies vital to the country's national security have been dismantled. So it's all this whataboutism. Yeah, but what about you and Epstein? He doesn't actually address. He doesn't ever say, well, I've definitely never been to that island or done anything. All of this is wrong, and this is where all of you are wrong. And even though I show up in the list, here's the explanation on where I was going and what I was doing when I was on that plane. But it's just 4 pages of that. At the very end here, let me read like the last 4 little paragraphs. For most people, maybe even the bulk of Congress, today will be the first day to learn of this dispute. We are confident that any reasonable person in or out of Congress will see, based on everything we release, that what you are doing is trying to punish those who you see as your enemies and protect those who you think are your friends. Continue to mislead Americans about what is truly at stake, and you will learn that Americans are better at finding the truth than you are at burying it. Oh, really? Continue to pursue auto pens instead of penning laws Americans need, and you will learn that you are signing away any remaining chance of being on the right side of history. Continue to abet the dismantling of America, and you will learn that it takes more than a wrecking ball to demolish what Americans have built over 250 years. Sincerely, Bill Clinton, Hillary Rodham Clinton. Yes, but did you ever go to the island? Can you explain how you're on the list so many times? Where did you fly to? Are you friends with them? If you're so on the up and up, why don't you sit down and explain? Why don't you answer the questions? Why don't you put all this to bed? So we'll see if anything comes of this. The chair of the oversight committee that was supposed to do the subpoena today came out, gave a statement in the halls of the Capitol building about Clinton skipping the subpoena.
Unanimously by the committee in a bipartisan manner, we will move next week in the House Oversight Committee markup to hold former President Clinton in contempt of Congress. Yeah, good job. With that, be happy to answer any questions real quick.
Mr. Chairman.
Anybody on the committee?
Will you roll out bringing Trump in for an interview?
Well,
in this investigation?
President Trump has answered thousands of questions about Jeffrey Epstein. In fact, I would say today, you all ask him questions every day. He answers questions every day about Epstein.
Will you roll out?
Well, you can't bring in a current president of the United States, and you all know that. So, but President Trump has answered thousands of questions about Epstein. I bet today, at some point, some of you all will ask President Trump questions about Epstein. He answers those questions. To my knowledge, former President Clinton has never answered questions about Epstein. And we just had questions because, again, I think anyone would admit they spent a lot of time together while Bill Clinton was president and post-presidency.
All right, let me tell you why I'm not too excited about this. That was the committee chairman, James Comer. He says he's going to pursue contempt charges. What does that even mean? What's the worst case scenario? Contempt charges. I don't want contempt charges. I want charges of anybody and everyone who did anything to kiddos with Jeffrey Epstein. Contempt. No. You don't stop there. And I wouldn't consider that a success. If all you got on this guy is contempt charges, is that even jail time? Do you even get jail time for contempt? You get like probation or a fine or something? That's not real accountability. And you're probably not even going to get the charges anyway. The reason why the Epstein case is so exciting to you, to me, to everyone is if and only if powerful people who for all of history would have gotten away with it, it would mean we live in a new paradigm where they don't get away with it anymore. That's what all of us liked about the Me Too movement. Sure, it went too far, but it's kind of nice knowing the creepers of the world, the Roger Ailes and the Harvey Weinsteins and whoever else was making women do untoward things to get ahead in their career. I'm glad we don't have to live in that world anymore. You know, I'm not a creeper, but I do have a mom. I have a wife. I have 2 daughters. I have a sister. I don't want them to live in a world where creepers do that and get away with it. And I don't want them to have to raise their kids in a world where Jeffrey Epstein can take people around and smash kids and get away with it. And there seems to be just very little interest in getting to the bottom of it by too many people. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. There is a couple of bills. I like one. I hate the other. One caps credit card interest. One caps the annual deficit. We'll talk about them both next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. All right, welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I'm your host, James Sparker, on your home for Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins. So there's two caps that are proposed. I like one. I dislike the other. So put on your nerd hat, because we're not going to do any math here, but this isn't like sexy or rage baity or emotional. First, let's start with the one I don't like. Trump has floated the idea, now there's not an actual proposal or bill submitted, but floated the idea of capping credit card interest at 10%. The only saving grace of this is that I think it's only for 1 year. So, look, if you wanted to do it just for 1 year, that I'll admit that wouldn't be as damaging as a permanent cap on credit card percentage rates, but or interest rates. But what you have to remember is this is the same thing as price controls. What happened when we tried to freeze the price of gas twice in the 70s? Both times was the only time that you ever had to wait in line for gas, wasn't it? Why? We had shortages. What most people fail to understand, you probably get it. You're listening to WBAP. You're informed. You're on the same team. I got it. But what most people fail to understand is that there's no real solutions in economics. There's usually only trade-offs. And look, economics is not a mathematical practice. It's truly the study of human behavior. It just happens to be our human behavior around financial decisions. But the point still stands. If you cap credit card interest at 10%, I understand the goal would be, oh, look, all these people who have credit cards, they'll be able to pay off their credit card easier. You know what else they'll be able to do easier? Spend money on the credit card. They're thinking, what? Because one of the things that keeps you from spending more money on the credit card than you already do is that it's at 23% interest. Maybe you have a good one that's at 18% interest. A lot of you have one that's at 27% interest. But that's a strong deterrent for you to going into debt. It's like, well, I don't want to have to pay this plus a 30% surcharge if I can't kill it at the end of the month. But the other thing you have to realize that's what it would look like from your point of view. From the company's point of view, from the credit card company's point of view. Well, there's a whole lot of people now who aren't going to get a credit card, who aren't going to get approved for a credit card. There's probably going to be people who get their credit card canceled going forward. You put a price control on it. So the people that are just struggling on the bottom, that aren't as profitable as the people who are in the middle or on the top, they're just going to take it away from you because you're bad for business. But let's talk about if from neither side. Let's talk about it as it stands now. In the credit card world, you can get a credit card, you can run up expenses on it, and if you pay it off at the end of the month, you incur 0 interest charges. Now, most credit cards have a fee that goes along with it, sometimes monthly, sometimes annual. But for the most responsible and judicious people in the credit card world, you pay 0% interest. That's the real interest rate. Now, if everybody was like you, credit cards would go out of business. However, there's a lot of people out there who are more like me. They owe thousands of dollars on a credit card and they have to pay interest every month. And I'm the profitable one for the credit card companies. So people like me, sloppy, right-brained, unorganized, get behind the 8 ball people like me are, in reality, are de facto subsidizing the services of a credit card to the responsible people. I am doing you a favor. I'm not getting screwed. This is the consequence of my own irresponsible actions. But we have a system right now to where if you let credit cards be less regulated, if you don't have a cap on the credit card interest rates, then you have a system by which responsible behavior is rewarded. Irresponsible behavior, it doesn't necessarily have to be punished. It is its own punishment. So now what are you doing? You're punishing people. If you cap the credit card interest rates, that's going to change the dynamic between me, the sloppy guy, and whoever the responsible nerds out there who are paying off their credit card at the end of every month. I hate you for it. being so responsible because they tell you, like, just pay it all off at the end of the month. Bro, if I had the money, I would. If I had the money, I wouldn't have put it on a credit card. But anyway, let's not get into that. Now you have a system that's going to take a system that rewards responsibility and punishes irresponsibility and try and mitigate the effects of that. So now you do this over and over in like 8 different parts of the economy. And now all of a sudden we don't have a merit-based economy where people who do the right thing, they have discipline, they have a budget, they're rewarded for their responsible behaviors. You have a system that doesn't work on that anymore. And instead, you've rigged the rules to accommodate the idiots like me. It's not good for the economy. It's not fair. It's not right. And it's not going to help poor people at all. What good's it going to do if they don't have a credit card at all? You're like, well, then they won't run up a bunch of credit card debt. They won't get behind. They won't have these massive interest payments. They'll save them thousands of dollars. No, sir. They still have to live. And if they can't go put that money on a credit card, what are they going to go do? They're going to go to a worse option. But for you, it's a worse option. For them, there is no fix. There's just a trade-off. And they're always going to go for their least bad option. And if you take away credit cards, the least bad option is going to be things like payday loans or those car title loans, or it gets a lot worse, y'all, than having a 23% interest rate on a credit card. And you can't find a shortcut around economics. It's not a theory. It's a law. Just like water running down a hill, it will find the path of least resistance. You can't stop it. You can only distort it. So that's bad. Coming up next, I'll explain the cap that I do like. There's actually a bill for this one. It's in the Rules Committee. And it's a bipartisan bill to cap annual deficits at 3%. And I love this so much. It's the most wonderful thing I've heard in 2026, besides the fact that DART is circling the drain. I'll explain next on The James Show. 800-288-9227. It's News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey there, fellow Texans. Welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker, over here on the X feed for WBAP. It says, is there any connection between the Clinton email server scandal and Epstein? Just saying. I don't know. I doubt it, but I don't know. There might be. Not a lot of people are bringing that up, but a lot of people wouldn't bring that up even if it was right in front of their face. But thank you, commenter. That was fantastic. So I was talking about a couple of caps. One of them I didn't like. I didn't like the proposed cap on credit card interest rates. It's going to end up hurting poor people the most. It's going to end up hurting middle-class people second because in order to make up for all the money that they were losing from interest, they're going to have to, raise fees or cut off credit to the lowest, least profitable credit card users. So it's only trade-offs. There's no freebies here, but I do absolutely love this one. On Just the News, they have the headline, bipartisan bill to cap annual deficits at 3% could curb debt growth. Well, of course it would curb debt growth, Jesus. But this is a House Resolution 981. It would limit annual deficits to 3% of gross domestic product, which is still kind of a lot. You know, when you look at GDP, what was the GDP last year? What was the GDP last year? Because they didn't have it in the article, actually. All right, 27 trillion in 2023. I thought it was more like 30. Anyway, so what 3 of that? So we could still have 3% of, 1% of $30 trillion is 300 million. So we could still have almost $1 trillion deficit. Okay, that's not even that big of a deal. If we can't agree to this, we're not even trying. I was hoping it was 3% of the budget, but no, it's 3% of GDP. So last year's budget deficit was about 6%. So that would force Congress to spend half as much in deficit spending. Okay, that's not my ideal situation. That's better than what we have now. I think there should be a balanced budget amendment. Of course, I also think that if we went back to the gold standard, we wouldn't be able to do the fiat money printing that the Federal Reserve does now. That's a different story for a different day. Using the system that we have now, of course, this would be an improvement. This isn't where I would want to stop. But the idea that, we haven't had a budget surplus since 2001. You can't tell me for 24 years in a row, well, we've just had to run a deficit. No, y'all want to run a deficit. You're not even trying to run a deficit. And we see how little you're trying to curtail spending. We saw in the Nick Shirley video, y'all don't give a damn about curtailing spending or waste, fraud, and abuse. We saw in the home healthcare stuff where we talked about the websites for the home healthcare businesses yesterday, having the default template text in them, lorem ipsum, whatever. So I hope this passes. It's a good step in the right direction. Definitely better than what we have now, but I'm kind of worried because if we can't even pass this to just, hey, let's cap our annual deficit at about $900 billion, then we are just doomed in this country, big time. All right, coming up in 2 days, the Parker Pour. The Parker Pour is something that we're going to be doing every third Thursday of the month. The third Thursday of January is the 15th. So we're going to go to the Omni Fort Worth Hotel. In the lobby, the bar is called Whiskey and Rye. We're going to set up, we're going to do a live James show from 2 to 5. Then we're going to hang out. And we're going to have the pour of the week. I'm going to do a little happy hour hanging out with whoever's there for a couple hours, maybe 3 hours. And we have some giveaways. Whiskey and Rye has given us 4 gift certificates for $50 each. And then we also have a pair of Stars tickets to give away. Oh my goodness. This just got better. So even if you absolutely despise me, you should probably go anyway. In fact, look, if you despise me, you go to the Omni Fort Worth Hotel. Go to the lobby bar. Tell me how much you hate me. That'd be fine. Look, I just want you to show up. You don't have to like me. I just want you to listen to the show, go to our events, spend a whole bunch of money at Whiskey and Rye, and we'll have a good time. I'm going to have some guests out there. Is Brian Harrison? I think he might be coming out there. I know Chris Putnam is going to be sitting in with me for the 3 o'clock hour from Dallas Express, but I'm going to try and get a few names out there that will be surprises for you. But listen, I understand if you have to work and you can't get there to hit the live show. That's why I'm extending the hours to at least 7. I bet I'll be there closer to 8. But if you can't make it during the show, whenever you get off work, come on to downtown Fort Worth if it's convenient for you and don't have anything else to do. I would love to meet you. Let's make this a big event so we can keep doing this for years to come and have a nice little success with our social life here too. And y'all get to meet each other, meet other WBAP listeners. That's one of the big advantages to that. So come on out. This is happening this Thursday, downtown Fort Worth. I'd love to see you there. All right, after I get done here, I'm going to go put up the podcast. You should check it out, the James Show podcast. And Mark Levin's coming up next on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.